Hey everybody, Breakthrough Health and Life Coach Glenn Hattem here. I'm here with a very good friend of mine, Edie. Say hi to everybody in video land.
Hello, everyone.
We are about to have a really fun episode today. I think this episode is going to be really playful. I'm projecting this onto this share today, but I expect it to be a very playful adventure as we get to dive into Edie's story. She's lived a very fascinating life, and one that I think a lot of our audience can her story can really resonate with a part of yourself that wants to be evoked to go out and live life to the fullest and go out to your edges and just live this one life all out, play full out. So that's our theme for today, is about playing full out. And maybe you tell everybody a little bit about what you're up to in the world. She's a dance sensation is probably my abbreviated version of all the things you do, but maybe share a little bit about your school and the offering that you have to a pretty wide audience. Your work is touching many lives in so many different directions. But maybe share a little bit about your school and your mission right now.
I think you know what was interesting yesterday morning, I was on a hike and I was listening to a podcast and it said on there, what is your fruit? What have you given to the world? What is your, what are you doing with yourself, to give back? And I think that, a lot of people try too hard to make things work and to force things to happen. And what I've realized is that inadvertently I took a passion that I had no idea that was going to be my passion until the age of 30. And I just was so excited about it. I just started telling everybody about it. I thought, oh my gosh, this is amazing. You should really try this. It'll help you lose weight. You'll make a ton of friends. It smells good. It tastes good. It feels good. It's just the most amazing thing. And what is it? It's salsa dancing. And they look at you like, are you insane? What is this? And I just stumbled on it. Okay, let me just start where it happened. I was back in 1994. I was really miserable. I was working at an aerospace company and I hated my job. I got asthma, allergies, when you don't like doing something for 10 hours a day, it's going to affect you physically.
Everybody's gonna let you know. Yeah.
Oh, it was just the worst. I was always sick. I was 170 pounds, and my husband was cheating on me. He was always out of the country doing something or other, and I caught him cheating on me with basically hookers and massage therapists from outside the country. And I thought, you know what? This is ridiculous. I, like the good woman, I stuck with him. But I thought, okay, I need to do something else. I need to figure out something that's going to make me happy, because right now I'm miserable. Every time he walks out that door, I know he's with another woman. So I said, you know what? I'm going to walk out that door and I'm going to be with another man. You know how women are, vindictive, all this stuff. I'm going to get him back, stuff like that.
Yep.
So I decided one night I'm going to go. He was in Israel or some craziness. And I said, I'm going to go to a bar. I was trying to get my degree at night, and I thought, and I don't drink, and it's rare that I'll drink, put it that way. So I went to a bar per se, and everybody was dancing, having a good time, and to rock and roll music at the time, and I felt so out of place. And here I am, little Miss Chubby walking. I'm only 5 foot. At the time, I was 5'1", and I was 170 pounds, little Miss Chubby going in there. And I thought, I feel so insecure about myself, my body. Everybody looks great except for me. I need to lose weight, blah, blah, blah. And I said, this is never going to work. So I went home all sulking. And I thought, you know what? I can't be that way. I want to learn how to make friends, because I was going to school full time. I was working full time. I didn't have a life. All my friends were his friends. And it was like, how can I just get out when he's gone? How can I make friends? And I lived in LA at the time. And I said, okay, I'm gonna go to the same place and I'm gonna actually get up and dance. And I didn't like dancing. I couldn't even imagine myself moving my body the way they were. And so I went out there and it was a salsa club that night. And I thought, wow, this is interesting. I've never even heard of salsa. You know, I grew up in Colorado and all I saw was country western bar, stuff that they would twang to good old guitars. And I thought, what is this salsa? So I went into this bar and I ordered a glass of wine, and I just sat there. Nobody was in there except for the bartender and myself. And I thought, well, this is no fun. And I was just about ready to leave when suddenly two people came in and they started dancing, and then another couple came in and they started dancing. They weren't dancing alone, jumping up and down like everybody was last night, the night before. And I thought, wow, you need to be good. You have to be coordinated to do this. Look, they're dancing together. They're not stamping on each other's feet. What is this? And little did I realize that the salsa music itself was starting to seep into the void in my heart. And I thought, wow, it was a tropical music. I'd never heard it before. It had a rhythm in it that kind of matched my heartbeat, I would say. And I started to really love it, just love the beat of salsa music, the timbales and the clave and the congas and whatnot. And I thought, this is amazing. And I would watch all these couples come in, and pretty soon everybody was dancing with each other, and I was still alone there nursing my wine or whatever I had. And I saw this couple come in. In fact, it was one guy and two girls, and they just started. Well, okay, let me back up. They had something about them. I didn't know what it was, but I noticed them right away. And when they came in, it was like they exuded a sparkle or an aura about them that was just, it was palpable. And I was watching them and I said, he's with two women. That was, my husband is with two women. This man is with two women. And I thought, okay, what is going to happen here? So I was watching this whole story. Right away, he took both of their coats, sat them down. He pulled out their chairs for them. He was Latin, they were all, this was a Latin club. And in that culture, that's very common and normal to escort your lady in and pull out her chair, take her coat and order for her and stuff like that. It's very machismo, and I thought, wow, that's impressive, and I was thinking, God, I wish somebody would do that for me. And so I was just watching it like I was watching a show, and he had a cigarette, and then another song came on, and he right away put it out, and he extended his hand. He didn't say a word. He just extended his hand, and he went like this, come on. And the woman took his hand and he escorted her to the floor very, very chivalrously. And I thought, wow, this guy, who is this man, right? And she was beautiful and he was okay. He was really young, in fact. And they just started to slam salsa music. I mean, it was a combination of Michael Jackson and Fred Astaire with Ginger Rogers, and I was thinking, my God, they're good, It was like watching Dancing with the Stars, Except back then, 1994, Dancing with the Stars didn't exist. Ballroom dancing was rarely, if ever, shown on TV. And at the time, I wasn't really interested in any of that until I saw this couple, and I couldn't believe it. He would take his hands and put them in her hair, and he would rustle up her hair and then throw it and then do a triple spin and then catch her and then put her into a dip and lift her up, and all her hair would come up out of that dip. And I almost fell off my chair just watching this ordeal. And then he goes like this, and this other woman who was also at the table, he looked at her and he said, come on. And I thought, what is this? How he's doing this and saying, come on. And she came to the floor and he started dancing with both of them at the same time. He would have one in one arm and he would take the other girl and dip her while he was spinning the other girl around him like this. And I thought, this is right out of Hollywood. I cannot even imagine.
You must be looking over your shoulder like, are they filming something here?
I couldn't believe it. It was just a normal thing for them, right? And he kept spinning this girl over and over, and she put her head back, and he was spinning her, and her long black hair was just flying in the wind, and he had his other girl. I mean, it was it was just a mosaic of just sensation, you know. And I could not believe it. I almost spilled my wine. I didn't know where I was at. I was just fixated on this trio, right? And I said, this is
This is the
amazing.
best threesome story I've ever heard. I've heard a
Yeah,
bunch.
yeah. And the song was coming to an end, and he took the second girl, and he did what we call is a turnstile, and he threw her, and she spun out of the dance floor and whipped her head around and went right to her seat and grabbed her wine, while the guy continued dancing with apparently his girlfriend at the time. And he put her into a dip at the very end of the song, dipped her on his knee, and laid her on the floor, and then stepped away, did a knee spin, came back, grabbed her hand, and when she was on the floor, she put her head back, and then came up, and then he grabbed her hand. He picked her up, and she had her head back while he picked her up, and he escorted her to the table. So it was like, I was just, this is amazing. And I was
Ay,
starting, you
caramba.
know, I couldn't believe it. I said that he had such command over these women. And I thought, oh my God, that is so incredible. And everybody was cheering, you know, because they made a little circle and people were watching. And after that, you know, they danced a few songs with other people on the dance floor. And I thought, wow, that's great that you can be a guy and dance with as many women as you want, and the girls can dance with different guys. It just doesn't have to be you and your man, you know. And so then this guy comes up to me. He was an older man, maybe in his 50s or whatever, 60s, and he said, would you like to dance? And I said, no. And he goes, why not? And I said, because I don't know how to dance. And he goes, come on to the floor. And I said, no. And little did I realize that if you're Latin and you say no once, that really means yes. But if you say no, 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 that means no once. Okay. So men in this world don't take no for an answer. Okay. And you know, what's interesting is that my mom is from Mexico, and I did not realize that about her until after this whole salsa thing with me all these years, because I'll never forget, I was in the car with my mom, and I said, do you want to drive my car, test it out, because it was a new car? And she said no. And I knew that she wanted to. And I walked outside the car, and I got on the passenger seat, and she went to the driver's side. And never knew about that. I never knew about that about my mom, about that culture, that if you say no once as a woman, that means yes. And I always remember growing up and her saying, no, 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 no. That really meant no. And so I learned, how men really want the chase. They want the hunt, you know. And I learned how Latin women, play with that hunt. And in Cuba, for example, when a woman is walking down the street and she sees a group of men, this is very natural for a Cuban woman. When she sees a group of men, she is taught from her grandmothers, her moms, her aunts, uncles, from a very young age, to walk slower in front of that group of men so that she can hear what they're saying. Oh, mommy, I'd rather have you in my kitchen than my pots. Oh, I'm jealous of your blouse because it's touching you and I'm not touching you. I want to write a poem on your body with my lips. I don't want to just give you a rose. I want to give you a jungle of roses. And just, you know, women are very auditory. And so when we hear that, it stimulates us to no end. And that little play of, I call it musical conversation, you know, men are visual. So what did we do to instigate that? when we saw that group of men on the corner, we in our rawness, now Cuba is very old fashioned. Okay, it's back in time, like from the 50s and whatnot, when the United States just cut everything off from Cuba. They just stayed in that era, and the women there really know how to play it up. They walk really slow, they're not in a hurry, it's hot out, so why should they go fast, and the guys are just watching this whole thing and making comments. I'll never forget that happened to me in Italy as well. When I was younger, I went to Italy. I think I was only like, I don't know, 16, 17 years old. So I was this really young little hot chick, and I'll never forget walking down the street, all the guys would start whistling and catcalling and all this stuff. And I wasn't used to that, coming from America, out here, men are so afraid of getting sued,
They start whispering, they get quiet.
Exactly. And and when I was reading a book, I can't for the life of me remember the name, but this woman, she actually turned into a man. She wanted to know what it was like to be a man. I think she was lesbian. And I think I can't remember the book, but we'll look it up later. But it was a fascinating study of human behavior, in that she actually moved to a different state and she cut off her hair. She even used the hair clippings to paste on her face.
Oh wow.
As a
Oh wow.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she strapped her bra in and all this, and she would dress up like she even got a job as a guy. And she joined a bowling league, and she noticed that when she was in a group of men, they would talk about the fish that they caught that weekend that was this big, right? Or they would talk about how, they just a lot of manly stuff, I shot a bull elk the other day, or I was able to quarter that deer, and all this. But as soon as a woman would walk in, all the guys would stop talking. And she thought that that was fascinating, and she didn't know why that was. And what was interesting is that she would go out on dates with other women, and the women would be so almost confused at her because she was a guy, right? Or she was pretending to be a guy, and I think she had a lower voice and whatnot. But because she was a woman, she knew how to listen. And so when these girls would start talking during the date, she would just listen and ask them questions and be responsive, and just like a normal girlfriend, would, and really, really delve in. She wasn't into herself. She was just delving into the root cause of what was going on in this woman's life. She said that she could not get these women to stop calling her, okay, for a second date or wanting more from her. And she said it became a problem because she wasn't really interested in that. She was on assignment, and she thought, okay, she was on her own personal assignment, and she wrote a book of it. She said that was the most fascinating thing, is that these guys were wondering how I was able to get all these beautiful women, and I was nothing compared to these men, and they couldn't understand it. And so I guess the reason why I'm telling you this story is because when I was overweight, working for an aerospace company, serious about my job, pulling in all this income, salary wise, making more than my husband, etc., letting him know it, I was being a guy. And so no wonder he would cheat on me, because I took on this masculine role. Oh, I have education, I have a great job, look at me, And so I didn't realize that I was pushing my husband away, and he would rather be with a stripper that had nothing, or a massage therapist that had nothing, but was surrendering, submissive, and a real woman.
Now, what are
And
you seeing now in the world nowadays, where women think by being more masculine, it's actually, they think, okay, I'm taking on all these qualities that men have, these masculine traits here, and it's unattractive to come home with that.
exactly. And it took me years because it took me years to finally realize that I was sabotaging all my relationships. Why? Because when I was little, my dad wanted a boy and he put me in all kinds of sports, and every time I would win first place or bring home trophies and all, I was very positive affirmation from my father. or how'd you do today? You know, did you beat everybody? Were you the number one? Were you the best? I want better grades. You know, so I was treated like the more I achieved success, the more kudos I got from my father.
You got that love and you got that connection in that way.
Exactly, from a man. And so whenever I was with a man later, I would clean up the house the best. I would go earn more money the best. I would run faster than anyone the best. I would, you know, and little did I realize that that's not what a man wants. And I never took on, I always considered my mom weak, okay? Because she was very submissive. She was very quiet. She was from Mexico. She didn't say much. And I looked at her as like, why don't you stand up for yourself? Why don't you put some balls on, mom? You're right. But, and so when my dad and my mom, my dad cheated on my mom ended up cheating on I mean, it was just a horrible thing. And I would get really angry at my mom and I'd say, Mama, it's because you're not standing up for yourself. It's because this is because you're not strong. It's because you need to do this and you need to do that. And she was just doing the best she can with what she knew how. She was an extreme feminine and my dad was extreme masculine. And I couldn't understand why it took me 3 marriages to finally not find the right guy, to finally change me, to enable me to find the perfect man. And in order for me to find a perfect man after marriage number 3 is I had to be perfect for him. I couldn't be a man. I couldn't be like him. I couldn't you know, compete with him anymore. And I believe that that's what happened to me. And a lot of women, especially in the United States, especially the women who come to me to learn how to dance, I have to strip them of their manhood to make them understand, look, girlfriend, you need to step off the plate and allow your leader or your man or whoever to step up to the plate. Take off your man coat, girlfriend, leave it outside the hall.
Leave some room for them to step up to the plate.
Exactly. You just need to, and I think that women in America, especially out here, that's why we're having so many problems. That's why we're having so many relationship issues, is because women in America think that they have to be the strong one. Well, I don't have any choice. I have to be the strong one because he's not doing this, 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 and this. And so I got to take over. Well, girlfriend, just relax. Let things fall apart. Let things just crumble around you a little bit so that you can call out damsel in distress so he can be the savior and come and rescue you. Well, I don't want to get to that point. I don't want to be rescued. You know, it's going to fall apart. No, just let it go, you know? And I think that that's salsa dancing, going back to that, helped me realize there's a leader and there's a follower, okay? And in order to be a great follower, you need to understand that you need to obey, submit, surrender. I know women hate those words, especially in this country, to a man, to a leader. You know, I train lesbians and I train gay men, okay? And they come in partners to my studio. And I tell them, I said, look, I love you both to death, but somebody's got to man up and somebody's got to surrender. Well, I want to be the man. Okay, then you're the man. Then you're going to go in your man pose and you're going to be the lead. Well, what if I want to be the man? Then you guys got to switch. You can't have 2 feminine energies dance. You can't have 2 masculine energies dance. The dance will not happen. Right. And that's what I learned that in Brussels, Belgium. I'm an instructor, and so obviously I know both the lead and the follow. And I was in Brussels, and this woman came up to me and she said, Edie, do you want to dance? And deep inside, I was saying, no, I hate leading. I hate leading women now. I used to love it, but I hate it now. And just because of this story, right? Because I don't want to show everybody that I'm a guy, that I'm actually a better dancer than most men in the country, okay? And she said, come on, dance with me, dance with me. And I said, okay. So I started to dance with her very reluctantly because I'm a girl, and I started to lead her like a girl. And I would have my little pinky up and I would lead her. and she started rebelling. In the dance, she started doing her own thing, started styling more and being very obnoxious. I would turn her right and she would go left. I would put her into a single spin and she would do a triple. I would put her into a crossbody lead and she would hijack the move. And I thought, okay, bitch, let's see who's the man here. And I put on my man coat and I started to be a real masculine man because I knew how, because I've danced with real masculine men, at least 10,000 of them in the past almost 30 years. And I just started to throw her down. I put on the best masculine that I could. I think I almost got hurt. And she obeyed finally. She surrendered finally. And you know, she whispered, she said, as she was passing me, she goes, "It's about time." And I thought, wow, that's what you want. Well, that's what you're going to get. I'm going to be a man. And when that happened, she became beautiful. She started styling. She started, I mean, really throwing down her real true power, which was in her feminine, because before we were just a mismatch. It was just, nobody was watching us dance. But as soon as I stepped up to the plate and she realized, wow. And then the whole crowd started watching, because it was difficult to watch the two feminine energies it looked almost like a cat fight out there, you know. But when I manned up, it was just a whole different story. And I realized, wow, I need to train men to step up and to be men out there. Okay. Because we're losing that in society, you know, and the men that I train, they really appreciate it. They realize, oh my God, women want this. Do they really need for me to be this firm with this dip? Yes. You know, do they really? And through this whole, you know, years and years of this, I realized I saved my relationship, not only with my husband and my new husband, my third husband, it took 3 times, but I also saved the relationship with myself. And it made me realize, wow, Edie, who are you really? You know, you are a feminine woman that when you are truly in your feminine, that is when you are the most powerful. You know, there's this movie called My Big Fat Greek Wedding. I don't know whether you saw it or not. It's really cool. And there's one part in there where she says, the man is the head, you know, and the Greek know that they allow the man to be the head. He's the head of the household. He's the boss. He's the one who makes the final decisions, everything. But she said, but the woman is the neck, you know. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. You know, through our feminine power, our feminine energy, we can subtly but surely influence, you know, the head. But if you have 2 heads together, that's when conflict happens. And I always tell my guys, you know, look for a woman that's going to surrender, that is going to be submissive to you. And I hate to say obedient, but that's really truly, you know, a lot of people are going to turn off the channel right now, but that was how I was able to find a really, really good man, you know, that would take care of me, that would love me forever, that would always be there for me. I had to change me. You know, I was always pointing the finger. Why are you so cruel to me? Why are you this and this? And little did I realize there's 3 fingers pointing back at me. I had to change me in order to find the man that it was the number one for my life and would
So
fit.
coming into a relationship, maybe not traditional with these times, but it's, what am I bringing to the table? How am I showing up? Like, what am I coming to give to the relationship versus what I'm there to take? And expectations of others. It's more like the eyes were turned inward to like looking at yourself. If I can just keep my focus on how I'm showing up in the world, and then that masculine frame, as I've learned from doing the salsa dancing, the frame is there so that the woman can, you know, as we kind of, some of the terminology is styling, and can dance, and you know, kind of like a bowl holds the water and the water can splash around, but you can't have, you know, 2 waters, you know, or 2 bowls
Exactly. There has to be a yin and yang, there has to be a balance, of that in any relationship. And I was in my later years, I my second husband, he was my dance partner, and so we were equal. My first husband, I was the man and he was the woman. And then my second husband, we were equals, always butting heads, right? And I think after that, I was like, okay, after I got a divorce from him, we're still really good friends. I said, okay, this is not working. I drove him to drink more. He was an alcoholic, but he drank even more. And I was thinking, okay, now I'm alone. I was alone for 7 years. And I remember thinking, when I'm on the dance floor and I'm doing all my styling and I'm being really, really feminine and whatnot, as soon as a guy would ask me out on a date, he wanted that girl on the dance floor because I could throw down and I can be as feminine and as beautiful as anybody on the dance floor. But when I opened my mouth at the date, it was like, right, for the guy. And I thought, geez, Edie, if you just go on a date and just shut your mouth, you might, get lucky. And I was thinking, Jesus, the last 3 years of my my world tours and whatnot, because I literally was in a different country every weekend, being asked to teach. And my last 3 years, I was basically celibate. And I knew it was really bad when I basically became the man I always wanted to marry. I became my ultimate dance partner. I became the man I always wanted. And I thought, geez, Edie, you are going to be alone the rest of your life. And
that's a dominant force for a lot of women these days. They're becoming the man they've always wanted to be.
Absolutely. And they don't realize that they're killing that which is natural within them, because they're so afraid to show their feminine side. They're so afraid to surrender and be meek in front of a man. And they are so focused on themselves that they don't know how to serve anymore. And once you understand your place as a woman and your understanding of how to serve a man, how to surrender to his lead, how to be in the background, but yet you're in that, you are at your strongest, your strength to be with that guy. Now, some women want to be single the rest of their lives. That's fine for them. I did not. I know myself, and I don't want to be alone. And it reached a head one night when I was at a Congress. I believe I was in Germany, and I was dancing with all these men, but at the end of the day, nobody wants to be with the teacher, And I thought, my God, I'm training men, I'm being men, I'm leading men, I'm leading women. I'm at the top of my game, right? How much higher can you get than Edie the Salsa Freak, right? In 2008, I was invited to 54 events. 2 of those events were in 2 different countries. I was in 54 countries. Wow. And in 2008, I was the world's most popular, salsa dancer, instructor, performer extraordinaire. And that was a lot cheaper because now it was just me solo. They didn't have to pay for my partner. And I would just partner with whoever was in that country. And we would throw down to the hits and breaks in the music. We called it musicality, and it looked like a performance. It kind of was like that first night, when I saw that trio. I could throw down like that, no problem, with any man to any. And so I thought, God, I don't even need a partner. I don't need a man. I'm my own best man. And it came to a head. I was in Germany one night, and I was in my 40s. And at that time in a woman's life, you're like super horny, like all the time. And you can't eat enough. You can't have enough sex. It's just like, okay. And I think it's just, you're at the end of your eggs, right? Or something is going on. And I was like, God, I just cannot get laid. For 3 years, I couldn't get laid. And I thought, okay. I went home to my hotel, as I always did. And the taxi cab driver, he looked at me and he goes, where do you want to go? And I said, and instead of my hotel, I thought, you know what? So why don't you just take me around town a little bit? I just flew in here the night before. I haven't even seen this part of Germany. Just take me around. He goes, it's really dark. And I said, I know, but that's okay. I just want to see Germany at night. And he goes, okay. And he started talking. He could speak English, you know, he was Italian, extremely good looking. And I thought, wow, you know, this guy doesn't know who I am. And I thought, okay. And he was having a great time. You know, I was paying for it. And I thought, okay. And so he just started driving me around. We started talking and laughing and everything. And we get to my hotel and he goes, well, I guess this is it. And I said, yeah, it was really nice talking to you. And he goes, can I come up? And I said, I was thinking, well, that's kind of bold. And then I remembered my when I was in Italy, when all these guys would be catcalling me and whatnot. And it kind of reminded me, then he just said, can I come up? And I looked at him and I said, absolutely. And so we had a wonderful time. He didn't know who I was.
Right.
And I was
So
like,
you got this BS version of yourself out of the way and could just like be in the moment unfolding with this gentleman, and the connection is like this heartfelt, loving, playful connection. It's like, oh, this like
it was,
egomaniac was not here that night.
that's right. And I was like, this is what I want. And you know, I didn't really want him per se, but I thought I want to surrender to a man. I want a man to just envelop me and take me over and just rush and just be in control and be strong. And if I'm falling, he'll catch me, you know. That's what I want. I'm tired of paying my own bills. I'm tired of pumping my own gas. I got to put one pant leg on the just like he does, you know. And I realized at that point I wanted to be taken care of, you know. And that's when I decided to quit. I decided, you know what? The fanfare is amazing. When I walk into a room, they start clapping even before I start teaching. It was one of those things where they just know who you are. And I thought, no, this is it. You know, I'm done. I'm gonna do something. So I came back to Colorado, and I went on Match.com at the time, and I said, you know what, this is what I'm looking for in a man. Da, da, da. I had a whole list. I was thinking I'm asking for the impossible. I said, you know, I'm a dancer. I teach salsa. I didn't say how famous I was or who I was. I just said, you know, I love to dance, but you don't have to dance. You just, if it's not your thing, it's no big deal. You know, I'm just looking just to have fun and play around for a while, you know, go places and do things, experience Colorado. And that's how I found my husband, Nick, because I backed off, you know, he didn't know who I was or what I was. And it was great because I had reached the absolute pinnacle of where anybody could possibly go in salsa dancing. You know, I was in 65 countries. I was the first American to teach in 18 of those countries.
See,
And
none of these guys want to hear about. They're like, tell us about the qualities of Nick. The you know, like how did he swim in, get sucked into the vortex of your list? And I'm very clear now, specific about what I'm looking for, and I know who I am now. I've done these things.
right.
I've proven myself, but you didn't list these traits out like in your profile of like, I'm this dude.
Right. Oh my God. Because, and I knew that if I would have said that, I wouldn't have found anybody again. Or if I would have even told him that on the first date, you know, he had to do that research on his own. He's a detective in his own right, you know, he just not a profession, but as soon as we went on our first date and he got to know me for a while, he started doing detective work on me, and he didn't realize who I was. I didn't tell him, just like that Italian cab driver. Are you kidding? You know, I couldn't. And, you know, in a way, that's sad. Why is that sad? Because a woman's accomplishments, you know, everything that she's done with her life, you know, men could give a shit. All right.
I don't want to be with your identity. I want to be with this soulful being. I want to have this connection with this part that's, you know, not wrapped up in that, caught up in that.
Exactly. And that's what Nick wanted. You know, he wanted that soulful connection with a woman that was just going to love him to death, you know, and serve him and honor him and obey him and trust him and surrender to him. And I was so ready for that. I wasn't ready for that in my 30s, you know, good God, not in my 20s, but it took me being run through the knothole backward, you know, with horrific relationships, because if you're too strong as a woman, you're going to end up being in trouble. I was put in the hospital twice by two men and two different boyfriends. And it was just because, you know, when you're a man in a relationship, you're going to get beat up. You're going to get physical. And I think that women just don't know, you know, if you're in a really bad relationship, then just get the hell out. Don't try to fight. Don't try to stand up for yourself. Just leave. I don't care if you have 3 babies with this guy, just leave. And I didn't want to screw that up anymore in my life, you know. Unfortunately, I never got to have children, but that's okay, you know. I'm with Nick, he doesn't have kids either, so that's something in common, you know. But what's neat about us is that he's so confident in me and our relationship.
I love your descriptor from all the flavors of all today of, you know, just, you know, you use this description that's kind of similar to what I do when I'm torturing a client, taking them up, running them out, and I'm like, and I have them repeat a mantra: look good, feel good, I should be in Hollywood, you know. And you're like, oh, dance is like, there's this place where I can go and like I get in shape, you know, and I'm at play and I'm having fun. And then you describe your relationship as just like, what's really neato, you know, about us, you know. It's just like, it's just a simple characteristic of what, and I love to hear more of this, but I just love how you describe things. What's really neat about us, it's really it sounds very basic and very simple. And maybe you could share more about that.
Yeah, he is. I think he became more of a man when he met me, to be honest.
Of course.
Because when I first met him, he was a little shy. He was a little bit, you know, back off a little bit. He still doesn't talk much, but he really didn't talk much then. And I had to crowbar a lot of information out of him, but I learned, and I made a conscious effort to not, and to hold back what I felt was natural in me. But then when I started to allow him, basically I had to allow him to step up to that plate and to open my door for me, and allow him to escort me, and to take my hand and to lead me, you know. Like just something so simple as, you know, when I got to the table, I waited for him to pull out my chair, you know. And normally a woman would just get to the table and just sit, you know. Or when he would say, well, let's go ahead and go. And I'd say, okay, you know. I would let him stand up first rather than me, okay, let's go, you know, which was my natural instinctive self, you know. And so I had to learn how to not be so aggressive and so taking the reins by the horn, or the horns by the reins, or whatever. I had to learn to let him slowly become more and more and more responsible as a man to take care of me, you know.
And men are being shunned to be aggressive, and women are taking on the aggressive texture.
Yeah, that happened. I started practicing that in Florida, where I used to live. I'll never forget this one time. I was practicing learning how to be a girl, a woman, astonishingly. Okay. So I was approaching a Starbucks door, and there was a man in the distance. He was walking toward me, and I was walking toward him. This was in America, okay, which was rare for me to be in the United States, but I thought, okay. So we were almost getting to the Starbucks door at the same time. And I thought, okay, I'll just wait till he opens the door for me, right? And so I got to the Starbucks door, and I looked at him, and he looked at me, and there was nothing being said. And I said, are you going in? And he goes, yeah. I said, oh, okay, so am I. And he did not open the door for me. And I was astonished. And so I grabbed the door and I opened it for him. And I said, after you. And he goes, thank you. And I was like, what has this society come to? You know, was he afraid that I was going to put him down? Because, and I have a feeling he was trained by another woman. When he did open a door for her, she said, don't open the door for me. You know, these feminist type women, don't open. So he was probably afraid that that's what's going to happen. I don't know, but I thought it was astonishing that that situation happened, and I had to open the door for him. And I thought, no wonder we're the way we are with problems in relationships, is because it's just gone too far. And I know that some of your people are hate President Trump, but look at that relationship, Melania and Trump. She's not a man. And in one of his books, he said that one of the reasons why he didn't want to be with Ivanka anymore was because she was in charge of everything. She was in charge of the motels, and she was in charge of this, that, and the other. And I think the same thing with his next girlfriend or wife, is that he put her in charge, and all of a sudden he couldn't even have an intimate conversation with anymore, because they were equals, and they couldn't even converse as a man and a woman, because it was all business. And he said he didn't want that anymore. He just wanted a woman, not another a competitive man. He doesn't want that. And and I look at that relationship and I think, you know what, the more masculine he is, the more beautiful she is. The more beautiful and feminine she is, the more masculine he is. And I believe that that's what happened with Nick and I, my husband, my current husband. My ending, there's no more other husband, is that he became the man that he always wanted to be. And I think that's the responsibility of every woman, to me, is that when you want to be in a loving, good, wholesome, basic relationship, you help your man become a man, by changing yourself and being submissive and surrendering and respectful and honoring of him. And this is going to be a very hard pill to swallow for a lot of women out there who are listening to this, but they're going to remember my words when they reach their 50s, their 60s, and they're all alone.
Now, what might be a soft pill, and how both men and women come into your school, your programs, how they can experience the correct posturing? And we're not talking about the posturing of a woman posturing as a man, but actually in the dance, where the feminine and masculine get a dance, and that healthy polarization, how that's a place to actually play with those energies in a very healthy, safe container, and then how that can translate out into your life as well, because you've witnessed that with so many students throughout the years. Yeah. So maybe sharing a little about what you've been able to witness through dance. And
oh yeah, I have a great story. There was this Russian woman I was training. I don't know what it is about Russian women, but they're very strong naturally. So this was during COVID, and she brought another gentleman with her to her private lesson, and she was very rambunctious and very telling him what to do, and trying to help him, and being super feminine, but in an almost transvestite type of way, where she was inside of herself a man, but trying to portray a woman. And I had to take her outside, and I said, look, just relax. You don't need to take over this private. You don't need to tell him what to do. Just smile and be in the light. Somebody told me that in LA a few years ago, when I first started, she goes, Edie, just smile and stand in the light. And that's how I was able to get a date with Willie Colon, is I didn't say anything. I just smiled and I stood in the light, and I was able to get, an interview with him. And then we went out on a date. But anyway, he's a world famous salsa singer and composer. And so I had to tell her, I said, just back off. And eventually that partnership just fizzled away. He didn't want to do it. He didn't want to come anymore. And she said, Edie, I really need a partner. And I started training her on by herself. And I said, and since I had to be the man, I had to tell her, now just don't say anything. Just kind of like, let me lead you. I'm going to put my arm up and you respond. Everything I do, when I lead you, you react. Your job is to be the world's most famous follower. And then when Armando came on board, I shouldn't have really mentioned any names, but there was another guy named Armando.
Different Armando.
I said, Armando, do you want to go ahead and partner with her? and share the cost of a private of taking 90 hours of private lessons, because that's what she wanted to do. And he said, okay. And I told her, I said, look, you have to remember everything I said, because I've been working with Armando for a while now, and now he's ready for a partner, but don't take over. And I think it worked. Why? Because she not only remembered to back off and say nothing, but she saw that he was better than her to begin with. And so right away, that respect came in. And when he could do stuff that she couldn't, she went back and she said, okay, teach me. And in every relationship, and when I do relationship training, I not only teach dance, but I also do relationship mending for men. I do divorce recovery things for guys. I say, look, don't ever let her teach you anything. You have to be the man. You're the one that's going to be the teacher. And that worked because he knew more than her. And she backed off, and she was learning from him. She was learning from me. And she saw that dynamic, that when she did submit and surrender to his lead, everything seemed to work out better. And she was having such a great time just understanding her role, that she went a little bit overboard, and she became even more feminine and more submissive and more surrendering, and to the point of where she was getting dates everywhere from. She would tell me, oh, Edie, I'm this is great. And she ended up getting engaged and whatnot. And it was just it was so wonderful to see that transformation from transvestite woman to, because she had all the makeup and all, showing her belly and all this stuff. And it was just way too over the top, to this beautiful, meek, just gorgeous, feminine woman, that was so irresistible to a man. She was intimidating at first, but now she's irresistible. And I think that salsa dancing really forces a woman to do that. Why? Because she's forced to follow. She is forced to, not forced to follow, I shouldn't say that, but her job is to follow, to surrender to the lead, to submit to whatever he wants her to do on the dance floor. And she also has to add in the styling. She has to look good out there, move her shoulders, kind of look down and then look up, as part of the training. And when we apply that styling and we put that in life, you can really score well with the dates or the guys, when you start to not look better, but you will look better if you act better, and I don't want to say better, I should say more feminine. You will look more feminine if you act more feminine. And the more feminine you become, the less you'll have to pay off these guys' debts that you're dating, the less that you're going to end up with a guy who is going to abuse you or be a weak man, because most women want a strong man in their relationship. Most, not all, but most of them do. They want somebody to take care of and be taken care of. And that to me is the natural order of things, So did you get a good lesson?
Took a lot of notes today, and hopefully everybody else is listening real well.
Yeah.
How would folks get a hold of you to just learn a little bit more? What's a good some good spots for them to just do a little research on their own time and explore what you're up to?
Sure. I have we have group classes every Tuesday night in near downtown Denver, and it's called the Masonic Event Center. And that is everybody gets there at 7:00. We have free wine and free beer just to get people in the mood. And then we have group class at 7:30, and that goes to around 8:30, 8:45. And then after that, we still have free wine and free beer, and it's a big social after the class. So it's really cool because you get to learn at whatever level you want. We have a world-class curriculum that basically I created from over almost 30 years of doing this dance. And it's a systematic, progressive way of learning. I call it black belt salsa, because you start off at white belt, you move through the belts on up to black belt, and guys love it. In fact, we have more guys than girls in the class because the guys understand. I understand how a man thinks now, and I realize that he needs to have he compartmentalizes things, and so we built the curriculum with the way a man thinks in mind. And also I understand how a woman thinks because she wants to look good day one. So day one, I teach what's called the mermaid or the glove. And the girls, Edie, I'm not used to touching myself in public. I only do that in the shower. And I said, you know what? You could touch, your mom isn't watching. Go ahead and touch yourself. Why are you touching yourself? Because you're conveying to the man, look what I get to touch and you don't, at least not yet, and so the women just go crazy over that, and the guys go crazy over it too. So it's a really fun class because we teach styling for both the men and the women, but the men really have to get their act together and really understand the curriculum in order to be able to
it's a lot of work.
This creature. That's correct. And so that's a lot of fun on Tuesdays, and that's at thisissalsa.com. And then I also teach private lessons. I do wine and cheese private lessons for first timers if they want. I always offer a glass of wine. And you can reach me and find out about me personally at salsafreak.com. Yeah.
I'm so blessed to just hang out in the space with you today. I know our audience loved today and probably is going to be on the dance floor getting some lessons on healthy masculinity and femininity and how to drop into your body and appreciate your body and express your body.
Yeah.
And all the opportunities that are going to open up from this work. I know I've benefited tremendously from the work that I've done thus far, and tune in for more of those episodes.
Yes, I can't wait to see. I can't wait to dance with you. Our very first night at our group classes, we teach men how to stand, like this. And then we teach the women how to stand. That's the very, very, very first thing. So the women automatically know how to project their beauty, and the guys automatically know that they're the boss, which is really great.
The boss. That's right, guys. Yeah, I know I've enjoyed being the boss with some of your dance instructors, and it's just incredible what you've taken from all these years of travel and wild and the experiences and opportunities, and have been able to encapsulate that in a study that one can really investigate themselves and how they're showing up in the world and make some quick subtle changes that make all the difference.
It does make all the difference. I had a guy, let me tell you a quick story. He calls me up one night, just in the middle of the night, and he said, Edie, I owe you $20,000. And I said, pay up, buddy. Why? And he goes, check this out. He goes, I just got a raise at work. And okay, this is the story. He was a foreman I guess he still is, at a construction site, and his uncle got him the job. And so he didn't really have to work up to that level. And none of the guys respected him. Why? Because he was kind of thugged out. He would be like this or like that, standing all the time, looking around. He didn't have presence. He didn't stand up like, with his triangles under his armpits, and he wasn't present with the men. And so he came into my studio, and the first day I taught him presence, which is what we teach all of our students. Stand up and put your hands on your hips, guys. Open your legs to where you have a bunch of triangle shapes all over your body, and really gaze in the eyes and be present with your women. And it took me a few times to get him to do that, because he had been run through the knothole backwards by girlfriends and this, that, and the other, and beat down by his mom and all this. So anyway, he went to his job and he told me the story. He goes, Edie, I tried your triangle bullshit to my boss. And I said, what do you mean? And he goes, well, I went up to my boss and he said, I want a raise. And he didn't back off, and he looked straight at him. And the boss came up to him, the guys don't respect you. You don't deserve a raise. You had this job handed to you on a silver platter. And he goes, well, I haven't had a raise in 3 years. And he goes, I don't care. You're not getting one. He goes, well, you just watch. And the guy goes, what, just watch what? The guys respect me. And he said, okay. So he watched him for 2 weeks. And all he did was put his hands on his hips. And that's it. He changed his posture. He looked everybody in the eye. He approached them and boom, 20 grand, just like that. And I thought, that's amazing. And, you know, and I had another gal in Adam. She lives in Adams County, and she is a school administrator type thing. She has to ask for money every year for the collegiate studies. And she took my instructor training course, and she emailed me once, and she said, Edie, you're not going to believe this. You know, every year I have to beg for money for our programs at Alamosa. And she goes, this year I didn't. And she goes, you're not going to guess what I did. And I said, what? She goes, instead of walking in there with a briefcase and a business suit with my little bow tie, she goes, I walked in there in pink and I had a purse. And she said, she had all the men captivated, and she asked, I think she asked for 100 grand or something in her most beautiful feminine self. And they gave her 150,000. And I thought, that's amazing. You're in your feminine. That is where you're most powerful.
That's where you're most powerful, not in the masculine.
Exactly. And so it's changed the lives of many people, you know, and going back to the very beginning, what are the fruits of my labor? I was just thinking of that. And maybe just going back to the basics of how to be your true natural self, a woman, or how to be your true natural self as a man, going back to the basics. You know, I learned so much from my beginners. I'm still learning to this day, even after 30 years of teaching. And the basics to us, to our group, are the most foundational, most fundamental thing. And when you go back to that, you discover who you really are, and you discover where your true power is.
I'm gonna leave us with that. It's an opportunity right now. Reach out to Edie and figure out how to discover your true power. Probably we'll get some solid hints of this from the conversation today, but peer into some of the great bodies of work that you have online, and you can explore. She walks the talk, and I'm just very blessed to hang with you, my friend, today. And we've been doing conversations via video and telephone, and but we're going to be in person here soon enough. And anyways, I just want to hopefully we'll see a bunch of you guys there down at the Masonic. So maybe that might be the first step for folks. So
yes, thank you very much for this. It's an honor.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you everybody, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.